Hello everyone, greetings from Hong Kong. Hope you're all safe and healthy and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to do a deep dive exploration of the three models in the Denon Home series. So let's find out what set these products apart in the marketplace and why these products offer your customer the best wireless music solution for the home. Today we're going to do things a little bit differently and we are very excited to be able to co-host with our EU colleagues. So time for some introductions. Joining us today is Achim Schulz, our EU product manager, a HEOS expert, and he's based in Nettetal, Germany, bordering the Netherlands. Our Japanese colleague Yoshinari Fukushima will be assisting him behind the scene while they broadcast from their studio. Phil Jones, our training guru, based in Carlsbad near San Diego, will be co-hosting with Achim. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you guys. Take it away.
But let's talk for this last 20 minutes about just tips for setup. Now, we had already mentioned that I have 15 zones in my house, and I'm running a lot of those zones in their highest quality. So everything is being played back at least at CD quality. Some of the services like Amazon Music in the US, we can do 192.24 FLAC files as part of that. So we know that as you add more zones and those zones are at higher quality, then it's going to put a bigger load on your network. So let's talk about tips to ensure that you have reliable service throughout your entire home. The first thing you need to do is, like I said, we have all these different streaming services. No more sacrificing performance for convenience. Make sure that you have everything set to its highest so you'll get CD quality sound or better, and you want to be able to distribute these services at least CD quality or better. So the first thing we want to talk about is how do you maximize this multi-zone music system? The first thing, the best way to connect it, whenever possible, use a wire. So I was going to put a picture of my rack in here. In my rack is a Marantz receiver and a HEOS drive. So through this, using those things, I am running 5 zones out of my rack, 5, plus the zone 2 and zone 3 on my receiver. So I have literally up to 8 different areas or locations in my home that I could play, and they're all connected via a switch. Switches offer reliability. In this room right here, my house is wired has a wireless, and it has I have a Ethernet port here that's connected to the switch in the rack. So this computer that I'm using, my office computer, and of course, even if I wanted to, this Marantz right here, I could have actually plugged that in to ensure reliability. So if you can hardwire, number one, hardwire as many things as you possibly can. That works. That really helps with your performance. The next thing you could do is verify your Ethernet, your speed for versus your wired and your wireless. A lot of times we pay extra, we pay more to get the higher data plan for our homes. And it'll be 200 coming in, but then when you do your wireless test, it may only be 20 or 50. That tells you that it's time for you to upgrade your routers, your access points, or how your router is configured to get more performance. So take your laptop or take a laptop, plug it directly, whether you're it's your home or you are a installer, plug it directly into the router that's plugged directly into the modem. Run a speed test. There's plenty of speed tests available. And then go in and run a unplug the laptop, jump on the network and run a wireless test. Right now, you'll see that I have 217 coming in and about 120 going out. So I'm losing some with wireless. It's just the way it is. You're going to lose some, but that's still more than enough to easily handle all of my Wi-Fi needs. The more devices I add, the higher the bandwidth required. Because you got to remember, in my house, I may have 15 zones. I have all these zones of music playing. So maybe playing the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, the theater room and the deck because we're entertaining. Then my son could be downstairs on his PlayStation playing LAN games at the same time. My daughter could be in her room with her friends watching Netflix in 4K. My wife could be out on the deck, showing YouTube videos to her friends while they drink wine off of their iPad. All of those devices are all requiring Wi-Fi at the same time. So having a higher bandwidth capabilities means that as you add more and more users and more load, you have the capability of handling it. So make sure that if your wireless is only like 20 to 30% of your wireless is only 30% or 1/3 of the speed of your wired, that tells you that you probably need to do some things to increase the performance of your wireless network, especially if you're using a lot of wireless stuff. One of the main culprits is usually these ISP or internet service provided routers. There's a reason why they give these to you for free from your internet service providers, because they're just designed to give you internet, and a lot of times they're a combination modem and router, and the router part of it is kind of a second thought. So they are just not capable of handling large amounts of data and devices that are available in many homes. Even if you don't have a large home like I have in California or we have in Texas, and even a family of 4, even in a small apartment, could have a lot of devices. Every person has a phone, every person has a tablet, you have your Apple TVs, your Rokus, your laptops, plus wireless music. You can quickly end up with a large amount of devices, even if you have a small apartment in Europe or Asia. All right. So it's amazing how quick you can do it. The other thing, a lot of times when these routers are designed, they're more thought of for what's called TCP, which is used for web streaming. If the Wi-Fi is performing slow, what you end up with is your web page is built slow. The text will pop up and then it'll show you a little bit of data and then a little bit of data. So the web page builds really slow. That is what these routers that you get from the service provider, they're really good at their TSP, and if they're fine with that TCP stuff. And you may complain that your website takes 20 seconds to load instead of 2 seconds to load, but it's still going to load. This is a problem, however, when you're talking about UDP devices, because it doesn't load slow, it just stops playing. So you end up with audio dropouts or video dropouts, or the video freezes, or the audio stops playing. So you need better capabilities if the streaming protocols require UDP, such as something like the Denon Home or Helios enabled products. These these ISP routers, if you're lucky, can handle 15 connections max. And that seems like a lot, but until you start adding multiple phones, like I said, multiple phones, multiple laptops, multiple tablets, game systems, streaming TV applications, stuff like that, wireless speakers, cameras, door locks, thermostats, all of that stuff is going to really quickly exceed that 15 limit. So what should you do? And what is another problem with this router? These routers have one antenna, so they can only service one device at a time. So all the devices have to adapt to the slowest connection. Go out and buy yourself a better router, and look for one that is multi-user, multi-in, multi-out. Basically, multiple antennas that can service multiple devices simultaneously. So why is this better? We mentioned that these old ISP routers with antenna can only service one object at a time, or one device at a time. because think of it as a basically a two-lane highway going in one direction. So an ISP router. So I have a slow car on the highway, an old Volkswagen Bug from 1950. A Lamborghini pulls up right behind it. It can't pass it, so it has to wait for that car to get its information before it can get the information is provided to the faster device. So internet devices do not share content with every device at the same time. The antenna feeds it to device number 1, then device number 2, then device number 3, then device number 4. Then it goes back and does 1, 2, 3, 4. If number 2 is slow, it is going to slow up. It's going to prevent the other devices have to wait till number 2 gets its information before that single antenna router can go to device 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is the disadvantage of only having one lane that you find in an ISP router. If you have a better router, which has multi-user, multi-in, multi-out, multiple out, think of it as multiple lanes. So if there's a slow product, it can move over to the slow lane, and the faster products can speed right by. So that one slow device is not slowing down your network. So you spend a bunch of money on the upgrade, to get 300 or 400 megabits per second, or super fast Wi-Fi. I just bought 1 gig, but you have an old laptop or an old tablet there that's slowing down your Wi-Fi for your entire house because you paid all this stuff, but that one old device is preventing you from getting all of the benefits. So make sure you buy one of the better routers. And believe me, this feature is plastered all over the box. You'll see MU MIMO on the box, multi-user, multiple in, multiple out. The next thing, don't estimate, many of these wireless devices live on maybe the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network. And guess what? A whole lot of other devices live on that network, in those channels as well. Plus, all of your neighbors' equipment is probably running at 2.4. One of the benefits of Denon Home products is you can select either it can utilize the 2.4 or the 5 gigahertz range. It will try to go up to 5 gigahertz if it's available, because there's less traffic up there. I will show you that in a second. But if not, you can actually go in and you can see what channels in your house which channels are being the most utilized. And normally you'll see that 3 right here, 6 unfortunately is being used, 3, which is here, and 9, which is here, doesn't have a lot of traffic. So you can actually go into a router, and many routers will jump from channel to channel to channel. But if you know that most people are operating in that there's a couple of open channels that are always an open channel, you could put your Wi-Fi network on that channel. And that means it has to deal less with your neighbor's systems. So you can go in, switch it from auto to a specific channel, which gives you better coverage because you're not fighting with other devices that are on that channel as well. The other thing you want to do that matters is the security that you use. I think this is called web protected access. You want to make sure that you utilize WPA2.PSK. Basically, this will ensure the highest internet speeds. The other one WEP is an older, less efficient encryption. Not only is it not as safe, it's also slower to do verify encryption, which can slow down your wireless speed by 80%. Never, ever, ever, ever use WEP. Always make sure that it's set to the web protected access at version 2, because that is going to increase the speed. The next thing, make sure that you have universal plug and play, UMPnP, switched on your router. If it's switched on, the volume control will be more responsive, and grouping times will be shorter. If you have it switched off, your volume control will be slow. So if you hit the volume and you turn it up and you wonder why it takes a second for the volume to go up, or when you group devices together, it seems like it's taking forever, most likely you have the UMP or universal plug and play switched off on your router. Go into the router and make sure that it is turned on. Another tip, we talked about the fact that a lot of devices live on at that 2.4 gig bandwidth. Not only is it a lot of wired devices like your laptops and everything else, but things such as your hearing aids, security cameras, baby monitors, Bluetooth devices, your microwave actually lives at this frequency. I actually used to have another wireless system. I tried a bunch of them, and there was a problem. It lived on 2.4, and whenever I turned on my microwave, the music stopped playing in the house because the microwave would flood the house with 2.4, and the audio would stop until the microwave was done running. Maybe I need a new microwave, but I knew that it was affecting my radio frequency. So putting the new system, my new HEOS system, my HEOS enabled products, including my Denon Home, they run at 5. And because they're running at 5 gig, when I turn on the microwave, I have no problems. Another system, some other systems use what's called a mesh network, where each of the speakers build their own internal Wi-Fi network themselves. This was really good when Wi-Fi systems weren't very reliable about 5 to 6 years ago. But now basically what's happening is you have all of this madness going on with 2.4 in your house, with the microwave, security cameras, all of this stuff, plus your laptops and everything else. And then you put a 2.4 mesh network on top of this. You're just throwing a ton of different wireless interference at each other. Our systems utilize the backbone of your Wi-Fi network, which allows you, number one, it eliminates having an additional mesh network 2.4. And if I need better coverage, I just increase my Wi-Fi system, and my entire Denon Home HEOS ecosystem or system gets better. Denon Home allows you to put your system and your devices at the 5 gigahertz range. If you look here, this is my house. Look at how much traffic lives at 2.4 versus traffic that lives at 5. So the fact that the system is operating at 5 gigahertz means that I have a lot less. So what all this stuff is my Denon Home product. So guess what? Nothing to interfere with it. One thing about 5 gig though, it doesn't have the same range. So you may need to have more access points or play with your router placement if you're going to put it at 5. If the device cannot receive information at 5, that one device that's way on the other side of the room may drop down to 2.4 in order to function. So either way, as a customer, you don't have to worry about it. One tip, make sure that your 5 gig network and your 2.4 gig network are labeled the same name, Tori, which is mine, and they have the same security, WPA2 encryption number. That way, the Denon Home can easily jump back and forth between 2.4 and 5, depending on where that speaker is located and what's going on in your home. So you can go into the Denon Home, and we'll show this later, maybe in the Q&A, and you can go in and you can see how those devices and what's going on. I can see what channel it's on and where it lives, and I can check each device. I can check Wi-Fi strengths and everything else. I can do diagnostics from the app. Many other devices, you have to call tech support in order for you to do this type of stuff. Your router placement is important. If I put it over in the corner, Wi-Fi likes open doors and line of sight. It doesn't like to go through walls. So if you're finding out that if in the back, all the way on the far side of the house, your Denon Home speaker is now playing at 2.4 instead of 5, you're probably reaching the maximum length of the coverage of your router. So you end up with these kind of dead spots. By just moving your router to a different location, it can go right through a wood door, it can go right through an open hallway, and you end up with better coverage. The other thing that you can do is I can go in using the app and I can check and look at all of every single device. I can see its signal strength, and I can also go to each device and see what Wi-Fi that each device is actually seeing. So I can see, oh, my dining room is, my living room is excellent. Then I can go to my dining room and see what other sources or the devices that that my device can actually see as well. So that is something that's great about the application under the settings menu. A couple of other tips: never, ever, ever, ever use Wi-Fi repeaters. They will cut your speeds literally in half, because basically you're sending it to the repeater collects it, and then it sends it out. The collection and then the distribution slows down your Wi-Fi. So do not use Wi-Fi. If I have something like a tablet or something and I'm playing video and I'm moving from one location to the other, so you will sometimes get an audio or video dropout as it switches from one SSID, the one that is and one network, your main network, to the repeater network. Never use repeaters. All right, repeaters, bad. What you should use are access points that are plugged directly into the router. So number one, the speed at the access points are identical to the speed of the router. So this will maintain complete coverage. So if you can wire access points, use wired access points. People say, well, my house was built in 1910 or 1876. How am I can't run new Wi-Fi routers to my bedroom. That is where these mesh systems come in. So the mesh systems expand coverage without reducing your bandwidth. These are just a few examples. And if you need more coverage, you just buy another puck or module. This will give you the best Wi-Fi capabilities. A lot of times in a home, each one of these used to also have a network output. So literally I have one as a router, then you can plug switches into the other one and hardwire everything else in that room. And that will even speed up to the back of the puck in the bedroom. You can put a switch in the back of it and then wire everything in your office to that. So there's a lot of things. So this increases your Wi-Fi network and it will expand your coverage. All right. So we covered a lot. I know we're going to have some questions.
A couple questions about MQA, if it's on the roadmap, if it's going to be supported, specifically tidal high-res. It is being studied. It is on the roadmap. We cannot confirm when, if, or where, or in which way. But here is a tip for you. Personally, I also use an app called mConnect, which you can find on Android and also on iOS. And it allows you to stream Tidal and Cobus, just like Roon, in high res. And all the HEOS devices are in fact also compatible with DLNA. So if you don't see in the app your HEOS devices, force close the HEOS app and they will appear in mConnect. And there you have an alternative to play your Tidal masters with MQA. Of course, the first unfold will be done by the app, but the second unfold will not happen unless you use Roon or a device that's MQA capable of decoding. And Denon Home devices and HEOS devices currently do not have that yet, but don't despair. It's on the roadmap.
Okay. Now, one thing I always want to point out about that MQA thing is we are looking at it. One of the benefits and one of the reasons why they came out with MQA was the folding allows it to make a more compact package, and that's one of the reasons why Tidal adopted it. But if you look at services like Amazon Music HD, because internet speeds are getting faster, Amazon Music HD is sending you 192 uncompressed FLAC files because the internet speeds are getting faster. And many of the companies are opting towards the higher resolution FLAC files, which is why you're not seeing this massive adoption of MQA. So we're looking at it saying, what's the best way to allot our engineering resources? And we're seeing this trend towards uncompressed 192 or uncompressed FLAC and PCM files for services. So so that's why we're kind of balancing it. If it becomes this big demand and a whole bunch of services adopt MQA, then that motivates the engineering team to allot those resources. So those are the kind of things I want you to think at. You're starting to see high res, but it's uncompressed traditional FLAC and PCM high res, as if just like if you had bought a digital download from a music service like Acoustic Sounds or things like that. Okay. Okay. Next thing.
Peter wanted to know if we're planning bars that will be close in the design to the Denon Home product. So we can't talk about future products, but it's safe to assume that if we're extending the range, that at one point we will have more products in the Denon Home that will look or have a similar design with similar technology in there.
Exactly. The old I can't tell you what, I can't tell you when. That we all, that's the mantra. Okay, next one.
There's another question, and it's a bit tricky, from William Sanchez. So he's going on about how the hi-fi has changed into the future. We're now arrived at a different way. There's a lot of apps out there, and he wanted to know if products working with older Denon and stuff, backwards compatibility, if Denon would allow for open access integration with open system apps, something like Rune Audio, and Rune, that is R-U-N-E audio. Maybe Achim can elaborate a bit. I have not been exposed to Rune Audio myself too much.
I think at this moment, I mean, we are always looking into these these options, because I mean, the software part of the audio experience is getting bigger and bigger, but there are no plans, I would say, at this moment of time. So we are studying, and yeah, I mean, basically we are very open, so that's why you can control HEOS not just with the HEOS app, but in different ways. That's all I can say.
There's always some workarounds at some point. Tony Clementos wants to know, with the HEOS AVR discontinued, is there going to be a way to add, say, a pair of surrounds to a existing Denon AVR or HEOS AVR? We already covered that, but you can add the Denon Home. I'm not sure if we mentioned this. You can add the Denon Home speakers to the soundbars, the Denon soundbars, right? And vice versa. You can combine older with news and new with older. So if you have, Achim also mentioned that, an older sub with the new bars, or if you have a new sub with the older bars, it's still the same language. It's still HEOS. They would still talk to each other. But the way that the AVRs are implemented, the HEOS chip has a different architecture that it is not possible to have, or at this point, wireless speakers, because we would need to implement it in a different way because there's delay added. So they will have to figure out a different architecture to be able to get around that delay, so that you have instant sound in the surrounds the same way as the front speakers. Exactly. Similar to when you do stereo pairing, you have the same sound left and right in sync. Richard Rex asks, do the new devices support Wi-Fi 6? And William also has something similar. Would Denon support MU, MIMO, or OFDMA routers, also Wi-Fi 6?
So do you? I know that the multi-user, multi-in, multi-out we support. I am not sure. I can't say yes or no on the Wi-Fi 6. I don't really. I am not sure about that. But I will tell you this: the Wi-Fi capability that is built in to a Denon Marantz or Denon Home speaker is more than enough to support DSD files, uncompressed, sent to it. So having more Wi-Fi capability built into the receiver or built into the Denon Home would be like having a car that can go 1,000 miles an hour, but the speed limit is 55. So what you need to know is you have more than enough Wi-Fi capability to support 32 zones, or in my house, 15 zones playing back DSD files, okay? Which should be, so you don't have to worry about getting, you're at the peak of the performance of the speaker and of the content that's playing. So having more capability really isn't going to enhance it any further.
Exactly. Actually, I do have a Wi-Fi 6 router behind my hi-fi. I use a AVR the SR7013 from Marantz. I have the Denon Home 350 sitting here now in display, which normally sits in my bedroom. I have a relatively small apartment in Hong Kong. I've got a Denon Home 150 in the kitchen, and I've done the party modes with everything, all the rooms playing together, no problem. So it's very robust, very stable. And even in Hong Kong, we have apartments that have a lot of concrete and a lot of fortified concrete with metal, not a problem. We did mention there was a couple of people asking about a desktop app. Currently there is no desktop app, but you have currently an alternative available, which is Rune. And don't forget, Rune works with USB directly connected. If you have a laptop, like in my case, directly connected to a USB device, it works with Chromecast devices and it works with AirPlay. All the HEOS devices are AirPlay, so you will see all your Denon Home and HEOS devices in Rune. So there's an alternative desktop app if you're desperate, but then there's a disadvantage. The HEOS app is free. Rune is a subscription with a fee. I think we pretty much covered it, Phil.
Okay. So thank you guys very much for coming, and we will talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye.